You started to smile based on something your coach had said, and you seemed to play a little bit more freely, a little bit more happy. Kind of what led to that change of emotion? Just your thoughts on it. What did your coach say?
Trying to recall. I think he like, I forgot, but he told me something, and then I told him, I was like, I'm trying. Yeah, but I think, yeah, like I said, I think at the end of the day, I definitely could have performed better today. But yeah, all the things aside, in the end of the day, I think there's still definitely a gap in terms of level between me and Coco and other players of her caliber. So yeah, I think she did great, and my job is to try and close that gap, and I think I'm doing that quite well. So I'll keep working on it, and hopefully next time will be a bit tighter. Yeah.
Hey, Eala, what are you going to improve in the next 2 months?
Next 2 months, I think I have time now before Indian Wells to kind of reassess and regroup and take a small break and build again, because I've been on the road and competing week after week after week this year. So I think physically is something I can reassess my physical state, try to build upon more injury prevention and things like that, and I think that will reflect also on the game, on my game. I think that's one of the things that can bridge the gap between myself and those top 5 players. Yeah.
Filipino fans supported you every time. What is that message for you?
Coco Gauff just handed Eala the harshest lesson of her young career. A bagel in the first set, a dominant second set, and then words after the match that the entire tennis world is still processing. Nobody expected Gauff to say what she said, and nobody is forgetting it anytime soon. Drop a comment below. Do you think Coco Gauff's comments after the match were motivating or disrespectful? And do you think Eala will use this as fuel?
That is wide, and Gauff into a second semi-final here in Dubai. That was a very, very solid performance from the third seed. She came into a cauldron of an atmosphere here with the crowd behind Eala, but she kept them quiet, winning the first 10 games. Yes, there was a little wobble as Eala attempted to come back, but overall, Anna, from Coco Gauff, a much improved performance.
Yeah, she will absolutely be happier with her performance tonight in comparison to yesterday.
Let's start with the scoreline and work our way outward, because the number itself needs to be acknowledged before anything else. 0-6-2-6. That is what happened when Eala walked onto the court against Coco Gauff in the quarterfinals of the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships. The match lasted just over an hour. Gauff won 10 consecutive games at one point. Eala did not win a single game in the entire first set. She was broken in all 3 of her service games in the opener. The first set ended with a bagel. Tennis shorthand for a 0, a donut, a set so one-sided that the losing player could not get a game on the board against the person across the net. That is not a close match that went the wrong way. That is a statement. And the statement Gauff made with her racket was followed by a statement with her words that somehow generated even more conversation than the scoreline itself.
Yeah, super ball striking that from Gauff. Excellent start then.
But before we get to what she said, let's be fair about what actually happened on that court and why it unfolded the way it did. Because context matters here, and the context makes the result both more understandable and more useful as a learning experience for Eala going forward.
Lovely shot, too good. Clean strike of the ball there from Gauff. Not there yet, though. Gauff takes it. That is a superb set of tennis.
Gauff came into this match with questions hanging over her head. Her previous round against Elise Mertens had raised concerns about her serve. Specifically, double faults at key moments, inconsistency behind her first delivery, the kind of service performance that gives opponents openings they would not otherwise have. The commentary going into the quarterfinal was asking whether Gauff's serve was a vulnerability that Eala could exploit if she played the match of her career.
On the American, there were question marks over her serve today, but on the whole, it's been very solid. She has swatted Eala aside in no time at all. 26 minutes is all that it's taken.
Gauff answered those questions immediately and completely. Despite committing 3 double faults in the opening set, which is not a clean service performance by any measure, she won 80% of her first serve points. 80%. When Gauff's first serve was going in, Eala was winning just 27% of those points. That number tells the entire story of the first set in a single statistic. When the best player in the building is winning 4 out of every 5 first serve points against you, there is essentially nothing you can do tactically to change the outcome. You are going to lose service games. You are going to struggle to hold your own serve under that kind of return pressure. You are going to find yourself on the wrong end of a scoreline that looks much worse than the actual quality gap between the two players necessarily justifies. Because here's the thing about a 6-0, 6-2 scoreline. It does not always mean the losing player was terrible. Sometimes it means the winning player was absolutely on. And Gauff was absolutely on in that first set in a way that would have troubled anyone on the WTA Tour, not just a 20-year-old still learning what elite-level quarterfinal tennis feels like. Gauff dictated the rallies from the first point. She kept her returns deep and heavy, forcing Ia out of her preferred striking zones. She was aggressive on second serves. She used her first strike tennis style, that pattern of using her serve and then immediately taking control of the rally before the opponent can set up to cut points short before Eala's game could develop any rhythm. Eala committed 15 unforced errors in the match, while Gauff kept hers to just 7. The margin in error counts alone tells you how controlled Gauff's performance was.
But the forehands come back to the party. It's always a party on centre court when Alexandra Eala's in town.
The second set had a slightly different texture. Gauff went up 3-0 quickly, extending the run of consecutive games 1 to double digits. Then she hit back-to-back double faults and gave yet a break point. A moment that briefly suggested the scoreline might end up looking less lopsided than the first set implied. Eala did not convert it. Gauff recovered, relied on her serve and her backhand, and that was essentially the end of any serious threat. Eala did win the 5th game to hold serve, and she broke Gauff in the 6th to make it 4-2, which at least put a number on the board that reflected something closer to a competitive exchange. But Gauff broke back immediately in the 7th game and served out the match in the 8th. Clinical controlled exactly what the best players do when a match is there to be closed.
Like to thank Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport. I really appreciate I think it's great. I know sometimes it's tough when you're playing against a home crowd, but I think that it's great for the sport. So keep being enthusiastic and keep rooting for your player. Yeah.
Now, let's talk about what Gauff said afterward, because this is the part that generated the strongest reactions. Gauff spoke about Eala following the match and delivered what was framed as encouragement, but landed for a lot of people watching as something considerably sharper. The message in essence was that Eala needs to train harder and keep working if she wants to compete at this level. The framing was that of a more experienced player offering wisdom to a younger one. The reception, particularly among Eala's Filipino fanbase, was mixed at best. On one hand, nothing Gauff said was factually wrong. Eala is 20 years old. Gauff is 21. 1 year separates them in age, but considerably more separates them in ranking, experience at this level, and current form. Gauff is the 3rd seed in this tournament. She has been a Grand Slam champion. She knows what it takes to win matches like this one, because she has won them before under pressure. If she is telling a younger player to work harder, she has the resume to back that advice up. On the other hand, and this is the part that people responded to, the timing and the framing of Train Harder in the aftermath of a 6-0-6:2 quarterfinal loss is the kind of thing that reads very differently depending on your perspective. To some, it is genuine mentorship from a champion who sees potential and is trying to push it. To others, it sounds like rubbing a result in after the result already made the point on its own. The scoreline said everything that needed to be said. The post-match commentary was an addition that not everyone felt was necessary. What we can say with certainty is that Gauff meant it as motivation. She is not a malicious person. She has navigated her own difficult stretches in professional tennis, her own rough patches, her own moments of getting beaten badly by better players before she became one of the better players. She understands the development process because she has lived it. And the advice to train harder is not meaningless coming from someone who has put in the work and reached the level of a Grand Slam champion and top 5 player by the age of 21. But the internet is not always great at receiving nuanced intent, and the reactions split quickly along predictable lines. People who root for Gauff saw it as a champion giving real talk to a young competitor who needs to hear hard truths. People who root for Eala, and there are a lot of them, a passionate, emotionally invested community that extends across an entire country and its global diaspora, heard something different. They heard their player being told she was not good enough in a public forum after already experiencing the most one-sided result of her Dubai run. The social media response was immediate and loud. Comment sections filled up. Posts circulated. The phrase "train harder" became a flashpoint that people debated with genuine intensity for hours after the match. Here is the thing, though. If you zoom out past the immediate emotional reaction and look at what this match and this moment actually represent for Eala's career, the story is not a discouraging one. It is almost the opposite. Eala reached the quarterfinals of a WTA 1000 event. She beat Jasmine Pini, a top 10 player, a former Dubai champion, a Grand Slam finalist in the round of 16 to get there. She saved 6 match points in that win. She hit a forehand winner up the line in the tiebreak to seal it. She got to the last 8 of one of the most prestigious tournaments in women's tennis at the age of 20. Getting beaten by Coco Gauff in a quarterfinal is not a failure. Getting beaten by the 3rd seed in a tournament you were not seeded to reach at all is not something to apologize for. The result stings because of how one-sided it was, and the post-match comments added a layer that gave people a reason to be emotional about it beyond the scoreline. But the tournament as a whole, back-to-back wins, a top 10 scalp, a quarterfinal appearance at a WTA 1000 event is a genuinely significant chapter in her development. Her record against top 10 players now sits at 3-3. 3 wins, 3 losses. With wins over Madison Keys, Eala and Jasmine Pini, and all 3 wins in straight sets. The losses have been against top competition in tough moments, and every single loss has pushed to 3 sets. She has not been bageled by a top 10 player before today. The Gauff match was different. That first set was genuinely one-sided, but the overall record still shows a player who is building the right patterns against elite competition. The next stop is Indian Wells. The BNP Paribas Open, another WTA 1000 event starting on March 4th. Eala will bring the experience of this Dubai run, the Powellini win, the quarterfinal appearance, the match against Gauff into that tournament. The experience gained from losing 6-0 to a top 5 player in a quarterfinal is actually valuable, even if it does not feel that way immediately. It tells you exactly where the gaps are. It shows you what the distance between your current level and the elite level looks like up close in real time, with no ambiguity. Gauff's "train harder" comment, whatever you think of the timing, is not entirely wrong as a prescription. The gap that showed up in that first set is a real gap. Closing it requires work, specific, targeted, sustained work against the aspects of Gauff's game that made Eala's numbers look like that. The serve pressure, the return depth, the first strike aggression, the ability to win 80% of first serve points and only give your opponent 27% on yours. That is not a tactical adjustment. That is months of training manifesting in an hour and 10 minutes of tennis. Eala knows this. She is not naive about where she is in her development or how much work remains between her current level and the level Gauff is operating at. Her post-match interview after the Pini win showed a player with a clear-eyed understanding of her own journey, genuine about the achievement, humble about what it meant relative to the bigger picture, honest about what comes next. That same clarity will serve her after this loss. 2. The scoreline is what it is. The comments are what they are. The quarterfinal appearance is real. The Polini win is real. The back-to-back wins to get there are real. The 3-3 record against top 10 players, all 3 wins in straight sets, is real. Alex Eala got a lesson in Dubai, the expensive kind, the kind that cost you a match, and sometimes cost you a little public dignity when the commentary follows. But the best players in history have taken those lessons, absorbed them, and come back to the same tournaments in subsequent years having used the experience as fuel. Indian Wells is 3 weeks away. Coco Gauff said, "Train harder." Something tells us Eala heard it. Alex Eala got beaten badly and then got told to work harder. And somehow that might be the most important thing that happened to her career this week. The lessons that sting are the ones that stick. Indian Wells is next, and the tennis world will be watching. Hit that like button, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments.